Canterbury, England. The year is 1178. The monks of Christ Church are finishing their evening prayers. Just an hour after sunset on June 18th, 5 of them look up. The sky is clear. The crescent moon is hanging low. And then the world breaks. The chronicler Gervais later records their testimony. They claim, and I quote, that the upper horn of the moon split in two. From the gap, they saw a flaming torch spring up, spewing fire, hot coals, and sparks over a great distance. The body of the moon, they said, writhed like a wounded snake before returning to normal. For centuries, this was dismissed as religious hysteria, a hallucination. But what if it wasn't? What if they saw the unthinkable? What if the moon actually split in two? Let's pause the fantasy for just a moment, because the truth is actually stranger than the fiction. In 2018, scientists revisited that medieval account. The crater Giordano Bruno sits on the far side of our moon. It is 22 kilometers wide, roughly the size of Manhattan. Geologists were fascinated. The crater looks brand new. The ray system, those bright white streaks of debris radiating from the center, hasn't had time to darken from solar wind. Some scientists propose that this crater was formed on that very night, June 18, 1178.
If a meteor large enough to carve a 14-mile-wide hole hit the moon, the energy released would have been equivalent to 10 million megatons of TNT. But here's the problem, and it's a big one. If that crater was made in 1178, the debris blasted off the moon would have rained down on Earth, not tiny shooting stars. A blinding, terrifying meteor storm that would have lasted a full week. The entire planet would have seen it. But no one else did. The Chinese, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Arab astronomers, the most meticulous sky watchers in history, recorded nothing unusual on that date. So the monks weren't lying. They just had the geometry wrong. Modern physics suggests that these 5 men saw a meteor flying directly toward their eyeballs, perfectly aligned with the moon's rim, creating the illusion of a split. So the moon didn't split. But let's ask the question the monks were too afraid to answer. What if it did? Close your eyes. Imagine a rogue asteroid, the size of a small mountain, piercing the darkness. It slams into our moon at 30,000 miles per hour. The crust shatters. In physics, this is not a clean cut like splitting a log. It is a cataclysm. The two halves spiral apart. Let's call the larger chunk the moon, and the smaller, chaotic newborn, Luna.
What happens next to Earth is not gradual. It is instantaneous. The first thing to go is the ocean. You have felt the moon's gravity your whole life. It pulls our oceans into a bulge. Right now, the difference between high and low tide is a few feet. Annoying if you left your sandals on the beach. But now, there are 2 gravitational fists in the sky. Luna is closer, much closer. Its gravity tears at the water. Suddenly, the tides aren't measured in feet. They are measured in hundreds of feet. Within 6 hours of the split, every coastal city on Earth is gone. New York, Shanghai, London. Not flooded, scoured. The water doesn't just rise, it races across continents. The weight of the water bending the Earth's crust triggers the ring of fire. Yellowstone, Vesuvius. The volcanoes don't just erupt, they shatter. The sky turns black with ash, not from nuclear winter, but from a volcanic winter. But the worst part? The silence. The Earth has a heartbeat. It spins. Because of the moon, it takes 24 hours. But with a second massive moon tugging nearby, the physics of angular momentum kick in. Like a spinning ice skater pulling their arms in, if Luna pulls Earth's mass,
the Earth speeds up. Our 24-hour day collapses to 18 hours, then 12, then 6.
The jet stream becomes a supersonic whip. Hurricanes become planet-wide, and every living thing on the surface, every mammal, every bird, every human, suffers fatal jet lag within a week. Our circadian rhythms, evolved for a 24-hour sun, snap. But here is the twist that will make your hair stand up. We are asking the wrong question. It isn't what would happen if the moon split. The real question is, what if it already happened? Look at the moon tonight. I mean, really look. The side facing us is dark, flat, and smooth. But the far side, the side we never see, is a nightmare. It has mountains 3 miles high. The crust is 30 miles thicker. Why is our moon two-faced? For a decade, the leading scientific theory, proposed by researchers at UC Santa Cruz, is called the Big Splat. They believe that for the first 100 million years of our planet's history, Earth didn't have one moon. It had 2. Picture it. A young, molten Earth. A blue, hot sky. There is the big moon, the one we know. But orbiting in the same path, about 1,000 miles behind, is a smaller sister moon, only 1/3 the diameter. For millions of years they danced, 2 moons in the sky. But their orbits were unstable. One day, the smaller moon got too close to the bigger one.
But they didn't shatter. Because the gravity of the system was so delicate, they didn't smash into each other like billiard balls. They splatted. The smaller moon was moving at a subsonic speed, 2 to 3 kilometers per second. It was too slow to explode. Instead, the smaller moon stuck to the larger one. Like a snowball hitting a wall of mud, it draped itself over the northern hemisphere of the far side. The magma from the big moon sloshed to the other side. The crust of the smaller moon pancaked on top, creating the highlands we see today. So, when the monks saw the moon writhe like a snake, they were looking at the scar tissue of a murder that happened 4 billion years ago. But our hypothetical scenario isn't over. Let's go back to our present-day split. We have 2 moons, the moon and Luna. They won't last. There is a point of no return in orbital physics called the Roche limit. If Luna is pushed inside this invisible boundary, roughly 11,000 miles from Earth, the planet's gravity will literally tear it apart. It wouldn't fall to the ground. It would shred into billions of pieces. For a few weeks, Earth would have rings. Not like Saturn, cold ice. Rings of rock. A belt of debris stretching across the sky.
It would be the most beautiful thing a human had ever seen. A silver necklace strung across the black velvet of space. But beauty is a lie. Those rings are billions of bullets. Gravity pulls them down. For the next 10,000 years, life on Earth would endure a constant, unrelenting meteor bombardment. Every day, fire falls from the sky. But let's say Luna survives the Roche limit. There is a second fate. The 2 moons tug at each other. Luna, being smaller, gets pulled into a suicide orbit. They circle each other, like a waltz that ends with a gunshot. Japanese and French astrophysicists simulated this scenario in 2022 for Mars's moons. The result was violent. They found that within just 10,000 years, a blink in cosmic time, the 2 moons would collide. The collision wouldn't just create a crater, it would melt the crust of both moons. A massive debris ring would spin out, and eventually, gravity would pull that debris back together. We would be left with a single moon again. One moon, wounded, scarred, and silent. In 1178, the monks of Canterbury drew a conclusion based on fear. They saw the moon move, and they assumed the end was near. But science tells us a different story. A story of stability.
The moon is the best friend Earth has ever had. It keeps our axis tilted at 23.5 degrees, giving us summer and winter. It slows our spin, giving us time to sleep. It stirs the primordial soup, giving us life itself. And while that scar, the Giordano Bruno crater, sits on the face of the moon, we now know the truth. The moon didn't split in two, but it was born from two. We live on the wreckage of a planetary collision. Our oceans, our seasons, our poetry about the man in the moon, all of it owes a debt to a long-lost sibling that splatted into its twin billions of years ago. Tonight, when you look up, don't look for a crack. Look at the highlands. Look at the scars. And remember the monks. Because in a way, they were right. The moon did split once. It just put itself back together before we ever arrived to see it.